our understanding of the scriptures is not just a product of Swadhyaya, it is also product of Sangha, Sadachar, Sadhana and Seva. 5 S's, all 5 S's are important, not just one. So just imagine you study something today. After 3 years you study the same thing. Understanding becomes better. Same book, same shloka, same translation, same purport, same person, but why understanding is deeper? Because in these 3 years we have done a lot of seva, lot of worship of the Lord, lot of chanting of the holy names, lot of blessings of devotees. So all this entire spiritual culture helps us understand the scriptures better. It's not just a product of our own diligence or intelligence in studying the scriptures, right? So devotees, if you are comfortable, you can come in front also. The devotees are standing there. So just sitting in a room and studying the books in seclusion is not sufficient. We should also be part of spiritual culture. So now we will discuss about the traits of a good student of scriptures. Good student of scriptures, what kind of qualities he may have. You have printouts. If you are unable to see the screen, you can see the prints also. I don't have one here, no problem. So all these are mentioned in the printout. So first, devotion and intelligence. You can see the first sheet. So we'll cover all the points one by one. First, devotion. You know the shloka? Aham vedmi sukho veti vyaso veti na vetiva bhaktya bhagavatam grahyam na buddhya na chatikaya. Aham vedmi sukho vedmi. Lord Shiva is saying that I know Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami knows Bhagavatam. Okay, and he says Vyaso veti na vetiva. Whether Vyasadeva knows Bhagavatam or not, I don't know. He is the author. So, why bhaktya bhagavatam grahyam? Only by bhakti we can understand Bhagavatam. Devotion is the first qualification to understand Bhagavatam. But why Vyasadeva cannot understand Bhagavatam? If you see Vyasadeva from the perspective of being a literary incarnation of the Lord, he cannot understand. If you see him as a devotee, he can understand. So devotion is needed. Even Krishna cannot understand Krishna. Krishna became Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, adopted the mood of a devotee of the Lord, then he is able to relish Krishna's sweetness. One of the reasons why Krishna appeared as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is just to experience the mood of a devotee and thus relish his own sweetness. So bhakti is the first qualification to understand Bhagavatam. You know this story from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw South Indian Brahman. He is crying. And I will not elaborate on the story, mainly 2 points there. Here, Lord Chaitanya says, my dear South Indian Brahmana, although you are illiterate, although you are unable to understand what you are studying, still my understanding is whatever you understood from Bhagavad Gita is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Why? You have 2 qualities. One, you are submissive to your Guru. Although you are an illiterate, Guru told you to read Bhagavatam, you are reading. And when you are reading, you are remembering Krishna and Krishna's Bhakta Vatsalyata, you are having tears of love from your eyes. That shows that you have love for Krishna, you have submissiveness to Guru. Whatever you understood from Bhagavad Gita is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The speaker of Bhagavad Gita is giving this acknowledgement. So devotion is the primary quality to understand Bhagavatam, not literary skills, not scholarly skills. Then, second quality of a student of Bhagavatam is a sense of urgency, eagerness. To the degree we are hungry, to that degree we can digest the food that we eat. Right? Similarly, to the degree we are eager, to that degree we can digest the knowledge that we hear or read. So this is the mood. We see the example of the sages of Naimisharanya. They are very eager to understand Bhagavatam from Suta Goswami. And sense of urgency. What could be a more emergency situation than someone going to die in 1 week? So Parikshit Maharaj is not eating, he is not sleeping. He had a sense of urgency. This is the moment that I need to spend in understanding Krishna. So with great eagerness is he hearing Bhagavatam. So that's the mode of approaching Shastra. Then Some more qualities of Suta Goswami. Tvaya khalu puranani setihasani chanagha. All the sages of Naimisharanya are glorifying Suta Goswami as anagha, you are sinless. As akhyatani and adhitani, you are well read in scriptures and you are also experienced in teaching them. But ability to teach, ability to study and being sinless are only external qualifications. What's the main qualification there? Vetatvam somya tat sarvam tattvatas tadanugrahat bhruyuhu snigdhasya sishyasya guravo guhyamapyuta. He is Saumya and Snigdha. He has great affection and love and respect for his gurus. Obedience to his gurus. That culture of respect and affection that he has for his guru is the real qualification of Suta Goswami to assimilate the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam and present it to the sages of Naimisharanya. Scholarship, experience in reading, presentation skills, they're secondary, right? So this is most important. And Saumya, he is pure at heart. He has no diplomacy, he has no duplicity, he has no hypocrisy. All these qualities matter in understanding the scriptures. Then, character and dealings, that's what I just mentioned. And also we need to be grateful to all the teachers, grateful to all the acharyas, grateful to Srila Prabhupada. In that mood of gratitude, we can assimilate the Shastra better. Okay. Second point. Fifth point. We should also be humble and faithful. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. If you have Shraddha, if you have faith in the scripture, we'll understand it better. If you are doubting the scripture, right? Oh, well, let's see whether it is right or not. If you are reading the scripture in an evaluation mode, then we cannot get into assimilation. So keep aside the evaluation mode, imbibe faith, then understanding the scripture becomes very easy. And being non-envious. Right in the beginning of Bhagavatam, this is mentioned. Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam nirmatsaranam satam vedyam. Bhagavatam is understood by people who are non-envious at heart. When there is envy, we can't understand Bhagavatam. To the degree we are non-envious, to that degree we can understand and assimilate Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita also. Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, Idam tute guhyatamam pravakshyam yanasuyave. I am speaking to you this Bhagavad Gita because you are non-envious. So non-envy is seen as a qualification to understand Gita or Bhagavatam. That's the mood. So when we create this mood, then assimilation of Shastra becomes very easy. Then seventh point, service attitude. Jiva Goswami, such a great scholar, what was he doing in the initial days? Jiva Goswami was just collecting palm leaves. He is just collecting palm leaves and preparing the paper and pen and ink for Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. Menial service. I am already a scholar. I can still become an author. So why should I serve these people? So he was not thinking like that. He was very obedient and submissive and eager to render service to his superiors. By their blessings, he himself became a scholar. Right? So a sincere student of Shastra doesn't identify oneself to be a scholar or doesn't aspire to become a scholar, but identifies oneself as a servant and aspires to become a devotee. When that mood is there, assimilation of Shastra becomes very easy and natural. Next, you know Maitreya Muni, all the hearers of Bhagavatam, within Bhagavatam are saying the same thing. One more point. Oftentimes devotees say that I read so much, but I can't remember it. Okay? I read so much, but I can't remember it. But we ate breakfast in the morning, we remember the menu. But do we remember the menu, what we ate 10 days back, what we ate 1 month back? But we were nourished by it. We were nourished because we ate, we have been eating all these days, we are having some strength now to stand here. Similarly, just like food is a necessity of the body, Shravanam is the necessity of the soul. So we need to feed the body 2 times or 3 times for it to survive. Similarly, we need to feed the soul, the sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Vaishnava scriptures. So in that mood of nourishment, we should, in the mood of seeking nourishment, we should read scripture. Whether we remember it or not, that's secondary. But let's hear. We may not be able to remember everything, but internally some transformation is happening. Some purification is happening, even if you don't remember everything. Okay? Then we should seek the essence. There are two terms, Saragrahi and Bharavahi. Saragrahi means an essence seeker. Bharavahi means a burden carrier. We should not carry the burden of scholarly knowledge. We should understand the essence of all the scriptures, which is to perform devotional service unto Krishna. Yes, we can do analysis without missing the essence. Analysis is done to arrive at the essence, not to miss the essence, right? So therefore, let's try to be Saragrahi. The mood of studying Shastra is to seek the essence more than just accumulating knowledge, which becomes a burden after some time. You know, Tapan Mishra, he read so many Shastras. He could not understand the essence. Mahaprabhu said that Bahu Shastra, Bahu Vakya Chitte Brahma. If you read so many statements, your mind will get bewildered. Right? You can't understand what is sadhana and what is sadhya. Right? Stick to the most important teachings of the parampara and teachings of the scriptures without being extremely eager to accumulate so much knowledge, which may not be exactly favorable for advancement in bhakti. So next, I will skip a few points. Very important point is service. Service is that circuit. Vaishnava Seva, Guru Seva is that circuit that converts the input of theoretical knowledge into the output of practical realization. We are not just into accumulating knowledge, but we are into assimilating knowledge. Assimilate it, internalize it, apply it, realize it. So that should be our aim rather than just accumulating knowledge. So that assimilation and realization happens by Vaishnava Seva. Right? One more point. Material knowledge can be acquired by research, but spiritual knowledge and spiritual realizations are acquired by revelation. Bhagavatam is not a book. Bhagavatam is person. Which person? Not an ordinary person. Krishna himself. Right? Sri Krishna Parivartita. So just like a friend cannot reveal his or her heart to another friend if he notices or she notices some ill intentions, malicious intentions in the friend. Similarly, when Bhagavatam notices some malicious intentions or bad intentions in the reader, Bhagavatam will not reveal. People may approach scriptures from a historical perspective, philosophical perspective, analytical perspective, grammatic perspective, linguistic perspective, but they miss the devotional perspective. They cannot assimilate. So devotion is important. We need to seek the essence. So scriptures, just like Bhagavatam is Mohini Murti. Mohini Murti has given nectar to all the devatas. She has not given a single drop to the demons. Why? They are envious. They are not qualified. Similarly, depending on the attitude of the student or the reader of Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam will reveal the inner meanings. Bhagavatam reciprocates with the sincerity of the reader and not just the intellect of the reader. Okay. So this Bhagavatam is like lamp, sun, fruit, and Mohini Murti. I just mentioned about the Mohini Murti comparison. Others I'm going to skip now. So next, I will directly go to the second section. After preparing our mood to study scriptures, let's try to identify some methods of studying scriptures, practical methods. So once we prepare our mood nicely, we can start implementing the process of studying the Shastra. Shastric study can become very pleasurable with a few favorable habits, realistic methods, practical methods, conducive ambience, and compatible association. All four are needed. So we will see them one by one. So before that, let me speak about the 5 aspects of Swadhyaya. We saw some time back 5 aspects of spiritual culture, right? Sadhana, Seva, Sadachar, Sangha, and Swadhyaya. Now we are going deep into Swadhyaya part. Swadhyaya has 5 aspects again. 5 aspects of Swadhyaya. What are they? Shravanam. First, hear from an experienced teacher. If just reading books are sufficient, if reading books is sufficient, then why there are schools, colleges, universities, teachers, professors, lecturers? So hearing is needed even to acquire material education. Okay, what to speak of spiritual education? Submitting to Guru is needed. So our Swadhyaya, understanding of scriptures, begins with hearing from a bona fide teacher. First point. Second is Pathanam. Then you self-study. So teacher may not reveal everything. Teacher will not cover everything. Okay. Teacher will give 1 hour class. Student has to read for 3-4 hours. Okay. So first Shravanam, then Pathanam. Pathanam is self-study. We'll go deep into self-study sometime later. Third is Mananam. Manana means revision. So you heard the scripture, you read the scripture, but we need to revise the scripture also. Let's revise it, recollect it, ruminate on it. So if we don't regularly revise it, we may forget it. We may not be able to retain it. To retain what we studied, we have to revise regularly. Fine. So that is Mananam. Then fourth aspect of Swadhyaya is Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam means contemplation. You revise what you have studied, but you also deeply think on it. So let's try to think deeply, introspect, contemplate on the contents of the scripture. That's the fourth element. Then you, after learning the scripture through these 4 elements, we continue to learn the scripture through kirtanam, through speaking. So when you share what you have understood with another devotee, we'll understand it better. Prabhupada writes it in the first canto purports. When we share what we learned with other devotees, we can understand it better. So these are 5 aspects of Swadhyaya. We'll go one by one. First is Shravanam. As I mentioned, Shravanam is very important. There are unlimited shlokas in Bhagavatam that describe the importance of Shravanam. Pibantiye Bhagavata Atmanasatam Kathamrutam Shravanaputeshu Sambhrutam. So one should be able to fill one's ear holes with the pure nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam by hearing them from a pure devotee. But Shravanam also includes avoiding Shravanam from unauthorized sources. Prabhupada often quotes this shloka. Avaishnava mukhodgirnam bhutam harikathamritam Shravanam naiva kartavyam sarpochishtapayo yatha. Right? Yathapayah. Means if we hear Srimad Bhagavatam only or Bhagavad Gita only, bona fide Vaishnava scripture from a non-bona fide speaker, then we may not be able to realize it. In fact, it could also have some poisonous effects. Therefore, so we should avoid hearing from unauthorized sources. That's what is mentioned. Then, Bhagavatam also says this. At the end of Bhagavatam, there is this shloka. Srimad Bhagavatam Purana Babalam Yadvaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Paramahamsyameka Babalam Gnanam Param Giyate Tatra Gnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyam Avishkritam Tachrinvan Supathan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchyennaraha. I will not elaborate the full shloka. Let's focus on the last line. Tachrinvan, hear Bhagavatam. Supathan, study Bhagavatam. Vicharana Paro, do Mananam and Nididhyasanam. We also try to ruminate, revise it, contemplate on it. Bhaktya, with devotion. Vimuchyennaraha. All the terminologies that I am showing here, they are coming from Bhagavatam only. Srinvan, Supathan, Vicharana Paro. So next element of Swadhyaya is Pathanam. I don't know what to do when screen is not functioning. It's perfect. Anyways, we have the content in your scripts. So 10 aspects of Pathanam. We may not be able to cover everything, but I'll just go quickly. First is prioritization. It's not time management, it's priority management. So somehow we prioritize eating because without eating we can't survive. Similarly, if we prioritize studying and hearing, thinking that, understanding that our soul cannot survive without this nourishment coming from Bhagavatam, then we will naturally spare some time from Bhagavatam, for Bhagavatam. So that is prioritization. Next is choosing an appropriate time. So sometimes we may spend time to read nicely, but we may not read at an appropriate time. Sometimes we may open, one day I was 10 years back, we had some site work in Govardhani Kovilis. So 9:30, 9:40 I came out and opened second canto Bhagavatam. It's very technical, extremely technical. One of our senior devotees said that, what are you doing? The whole day I could not read anything, I'm reading something now. But why are you reading second canto? You can't understand much now. And you are already so exhausted physically and mentally. Now you read Krishna book and then go to sleep. Reading is good. You want to read something in the day, 15-20 minutes, you read Krishna book and go to sleep. Don't start a very heavy intellectual activity now. So sometimes we may want to study, but we may not study at the appropriate time. Of course, there are some scholars, some great devotees who can understand Uddhava Gita also in the middle of the night. When their sleep breaks, they'll get up and open Uddhava Gita. They're very philosophical, but some general devotees, like we need something lighter. So some books are little light to digest, pre-digested material is given. Some are very technical. So you need to read the right book at the right time. So choose an appropriate time for study and try, as much as possible, let's try to be consistent. Then fix some duration, some basic amount of time, say 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, depends on how practical it is in your schedule. So choosing an appropriate time of study, fixing an amount of duration, then selecting study space also. Right? If you want to read second chapter Bhagavad Gita, we may not sit in Dadar railway station and read. Right? Because it's so noisy and it's very distracting. We may not sit in front of TV and read. So selecting a good study space also is important. For me, the pen that I use to make my notes also is important. Otherwise, why am I spending time in these externals? These are all externals. We are not yet into Swadhyaya. But when the externals are taken care of, as soon as you sit for study, you can get into the mood. But you spend, say 1 hour is the allocated time. You are sitting at a new place, at a new time, which you are not habituated to. Half an hour will go in getting habituated to this new ambience. Right? The ambience can be programmed, but we have to read in a devotional mood. So we can immediately get into the mood of study when these externals are taken care. Sitting at a nice place at a regular time. Today I read at 10 o'clock in the morning. Tomorrow I read at 12 o'clock in the night. It may not work. Right? If there is a regular habit, then it becomes easy. Then concentration. Okay, I will not elaborate so much. Like smartphones are there. If you sit with Bhagavatam with a smartphone next to it. Okay, every 2 minutes a message comes. Right? So 2 minutes you take the phone, check the message, keep it back. After 2 minutes again another message. After 4 minutes another message. After 5 minutes no message comes, still we will pick it up. Right? We are doubtful whether mobile data is on or not. Wi-Fi is on or not. Please believe me, just by checking phone 10 times we will not get messages. Someone has to send them, then we will get. Okay, so we can keep it aside so that we can focus. So, and write book at the right time, I said. Sometimes we may want to read, we are very sincere, we are allocating time, we are keeping the smartphone aside also. But if I am a beginner, if I just started bhakti, I can't begin with Ujjvala Nilamani, Lalita Madhav, Vidagdha Madhav. I should read on the way to Krishna. Let's slowly Bhagavad Gita, then come to Bhagavatam, then Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we may sometimes choose a book that may not be the best book for us at our current level of devotional understanding. So we need some guidance to choose the appropriate book. Okay, so that will make our study better. Sometimes we may take a book which is beyond our capacity to digest, and we develop an aversion. Oh, this book I can never understand. So Shastric study is not meant for me. So if we read under guidance, then it becomes easy. Next. Yeah, this I covered. So we also try to see the essence of the whole episode while going through the stories and concepts and the flow. We should also try not to miss the essence. Sometimes a chapter may be 50 pages, a purport may be 4 pages, right? We may read, we may go into details, but we also try to get an overview of things. I'll come to the next point. So we should also not miss the essence. This point maybe you can read in the book. I'm going to skip this. Then, Yeah, making notes is one thing that helped me, and I know it helped many devotees also. So if we try to make some notes while reading, we will have more concentration, focus in study, and we will also try to avoid sleep. So class is going on. If I sit, I may doze off sometimes. But if I also make sure that I make some important points, note some important points in my notes, the sleeping tendency will be reduced. Focus will be increased. This may not be true for all devotees. I found it helpful. Many devotees found it helpful. If you find it helpful, you can take this point. Otherwise, making notes is not mandatory item as a part of self-study. It will help us in some way. So we can easily recollect it. Say I read first chapter of second canto today. I made some notes. Chapter may be covered in 30 pages or 40 pages. I made some notes of 2-3 pages. Now tomorrow when I open second chapter, before entering second chapter, I have the summary, a quick outline of what is there in the first chapter. I will just revise my own personal notes. When we read and understand and write things in our own words, they will become our own, right? So we may read 30 pages, we may not be able to connect with every single point immediately, but we can just gather some very, very important points that are very much appreciated by our heart at this current stage of devotional service. If we note them down, we can retain it better, right? So that's very helpful for future revision and giving classes also. Then we can make things concise. So we can make things concise while making notes, and we can expand while we're explaining to someone else. Contract and expand, right? So this is how I try to take notes. Just the red letters are Bhagavatam shlokas in Telugu, okay? Then black letters are a paraphrased version of translation, and little black letters above the shlokas are the meanings of the tough words, right? Some words we can understand, some words are very tough. I just write the meaning on top of it only. Then the blue points are a summary of Prabhupada's purports. Prabhupada must have written 3-4 paragraphs, so just important points I just noted down. And some pencil lines and green color, they are like extra points which are not there in the book. When you're reading, you can pause, think. You're reading Dhruva Maharaj pastime. You can recollect something similar in Prahalad Maharaj's pastime. You can write it there. It may not be there in the book. So you can also just contemplate on the contents more. So that's the second aspect. We were discussing 5 aspects of Swadhyaya, right? One is Shravanam. Second is Pathanam. We saw 10 points on Pathanam. Third is Mananam. Mananam is recollection, revision. In this I will make 2 points. One is Simhavalokana. Second is Vihangavalokana. Simhavalokana means, what does a lion do? Lion kills his enemies in the forest and then moves ahead. Prabhupada uses this word, Simhavalokana. So he will move ahead in the forest. Sometimes lion will look behind. Any more enemies left? Right? So that's called lion's gaze. Similarly, when we are reading scriptures, moving ahead in our study, sometimes we should look back also. Just flip the pages. Did I miss anything? Right? You read 10 pages. Don't go to the 11th page immediately. Just look back into these 10 pages once again. Spend 5-10 minutes if you have missed out anything. That is called Simhavalokana. Next is Vihangavalokana. Vihangavalokana means a bird's eye view. Now this bird is flying and it's able to see a big patch of land, the hills and the pathways and the trees and fields, all the big plants, small plants from a top view. Just like we go in airplane, from the window we can see all the pathways, very narrow. All the big trains like a small lion, okay, and big skyscrapers like small matchboxes. So when we are studying, we can also note the skeleton, the flow in one paper. So from first shloka to seventh shloka, these are the contents covered. From 8th shloka to 15th shloka, these are the contents covered. So like that, if you make a skeleton, we make a bird's eye view of the entire chapter, and once you complete reading the chapter, you have the entire chapter at a glance. So it is bird's eye view, Vihangavalokana. So this kind of looking back in our study to revise, to know if you have missed something, and also having a bird's eye view of the entire content, that will make study very easy. So 11:53 now, we have 7 minutes to cover. I'll skip few points. I'll go to Nididhyasanam now. Nididhyasanam means deeper contemplation. After doing Mananam, Mananam is revision. Revision of what you have already studied. Nididhyasana means you are thinking, you are reading between lines. It's not written there. You are contemplating something. So you are reading between lines in line with parampara. Just like a teacher may say, my dear child, write A, B, C, D, and the child will write A, B, C, D. So the teacher says just write A, the child is writing A and just doing drawing A, but not identifying this is alphabet A, B, C, D. If the child only identifies only tries to draw this alphabet, but not understanding that this is A, this is B, this is C. The child wrote all these alphabets multiple times. But if the teacher asks, write C, doesn't remember what diagram is that, what figure is that. So when the teacher says C, the child may write A, because the child has not identified this is A, this is B, this is C, D. Similarly, when we are reading Shastra also, we cannot muck up things, we cannot by-heart things, we cannot just keep a visual memory of the things in the head only. We should also understand, process it with our own intelligence. We should ruminate on it, and we should also introspect deeply. So deeply contemplate or introspect on what we have studied. That's what the Bhagavatam shloka says. Tat shrindvan supathan vicharana paro. Vicharana also we have to do. So we should reflect on things. One is revision, second is reflection. So Prabhupada says, we shouldn't blindly follow something. Instead, we must understand things with logic and reason. That is Nididhyasanam, being thoughtful. Now the shloka is only 4 lines. The Acharya may give 4-page purport. Where is it coming from? From their contemplation, from their Nididhyasanam, from their reflections. So this reflections is not just speculation. This knowledge that they are giving in long purports is not a result of speculation or concoction, it is realization. If we do Nididhyasanam, then we'll realize things better. Okay? So read between lines, but in line with the Acharya's teachings. Let's read between lines, not outside the page, but in line with the teachings of Acharya. Okay? Then 5th element is Kirtanam, speaking. In this, I'll just answer 2 questions. First question, is speaking meant for only public gatherings? Second question, can speaking be an impetus for study? Okay, can be. Now, first point, is speaking meant for only public gatherings? This sharing of Harikatha need not be restricted to classes. Now, we are sitting here, we have devotees, 100, 200 devotees are sitting here, I am speaking. But even if 200 devotees are not there, I can sit here with my friend and share Harikatha, 1 hour. So that's what all the devotees in Chaitanya Charitamrita are doing. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just sits with Ramananda Rai, discusses Krishna Katha for 10 days. He does not have a big audience. He does not have a Zoom call with 1,000 people logging in. He does not have a big pandal erected with a stage with 1,000 people and with a sound system and then screen and PPT. He does not have all that. Just 2 of them relishing Harikatha. Parasparanukathanam pavanam bhagavadyashah mithoratihi mitha tushtir nivrittir mitha atmanah. So paraspara anukathanam, devotees increase their relationships. Devotees improve their relationships and also collectively increase their love for Krishna by regularly sitting and sharing Harikatha with each other. That's what Krishna said. Machitta madgata prana bodhayantaha parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. Machitta madgata prana. Devotees enlighten each other, share Harikatha with each other. Therefore, my conclusion is, Krishna Katha should not be restricted only to formal and public gatherings. So we should bring in the culture of sharing Krishna Katha, glorifying Krishna, sharing the Shastra with each other, even in our private, personal conversations, informal gatherings also. When we bring in that culture, individually and collectively, we can become Krishna conscious, and that's a wonderful application of Shastra, right? So when we get into that culture, I have a couple of, you may not do that with every single devotee. You have a couple of friends, 2-3 devotees are there, with whom you regularly share Harikatha. So that's a wonderful way of improving our Krishna consciousness. Next, can speaking be an impetus for study? Sometimes we are scheduled to give classes or courses, then we study nicely and then we present it. Why? We study nicely because we have to teach. That's good. Somehow or the other, studying Shastra is good. But I have another point here. Even if we don't have to give a class, let us study, right? Even if we don't have a Pandal program or some festival program scheduled, let's study. It's for my nourishment. It's for my purification. It's for my meditation on Krishna. So if we can have a self-study habit, and whenever we are asked to speak, it will just come out. It's like our speech is a product of our regular study. Okay, it's like tomorrow there is an exam, the student will study. But whether exam is there or not, so if the student studies on a regular basis, he's a good student, right? So that's one point I wanted to mention. So now teaching Shastra. We saw 2 points till now. The mood of studying Shastra. Second, the method of studying Shastra. Sorry, I'm going a little fast-paced because of the time factor. Yeah, we have only 5 minutes. Yeah, I understand. Now I'm going to skip this entire section of studying Shastra. Mood of teaching Shastra. Let's do only one statement. Speaking the Shastra is an expression of love for Krishna and in the mode of being an instrument of Krishna, instrument in Krishna's hands. A devotee, an acharya, or any preacher, any teacher of Shastra identifies oneself as a humble instrument in Krishna's hands and then presents the knowledge that Krishna has given in the form of scriptures, right? So speaking Shastra is meant to be an expression of love. Now the mood of teaching Shastra should not be that I know so much, these people don't know anything, I'm enlightening them. Okay? If the study of Shastra induces pride in the student, in the teacher, if teaching Shastra induces pride in the teacher, then actually he has not understood what he is teaching. This is the perfect example. In our Sharanagati library in ISKCON Chowpatty, we have this picture. Initially, I was wondering, there are so many beautiful Krishna pictures, Radharani pictures, so many paintings are there. Why this picture is kept? At that time, I did not know the pastime. So later, I saw the shloka and I understood, oh, here is a speaker of scriptures, Roma Harshana Sutta. He was arrogantly sitting on the Vyasasana without respecting our Balaramji. So a speaker may not get up for every single person who is entering the hall, but when the Supreme Lord himself comes, Prabhupada writes, when the Supreme Lord himself comes, he can't just arrogantly speak. He should get up and acknowledge. All the other sages acknowledged Balaramji's presence, but he did not acknowledge. So he understood there's a pride in the heart of this Roma Harshana, and Balaramji just killed. Adi Guru punished this Guru, this teacher of scriptures, because he is not teaching in the right mood. Fine? So that humility is very important. So when that humility is there, then teaching becomes more effective. So you can go through these 15 points in the third page of your sheet. I'm not going to cover all of them, but I'll just directly go to the method of scriptures, method of teaching scriptures. So qualities of a good teacher of Shastra is language of heart, compassion, transparent transmission. Transparently transmitting the transcendental message will lead to transformation. Will stop all tribulations, will stop all temptations. But if there is no transparency, honesty, loyalty to the parampara, then that concoction, the speculation, the deviation will create havoc in one's own spiritual life and other spiritual life also. Right? So teaching has to be done, teaching Shastra has to be done with great responsibility, in the mode of being a representative of Acharyas, not a replacement for the Acharyas. Right? There are 10 Acharyas, I'll become 11th Acharya. I'm a replacement. We are not replacements, we are representatives. Okay? We are supposed to be in the mode of being an instrument, not accomplishment. We should be instrument conscious, not accomplishment conscious. Right? So, when a sincere devotee speaks on Shastra, it's a genuine expression of one's appreciation for Krishna's qualities. Giving class is not just declaring that I am so knowledgeable. Giving a class is just an opportunity to become Krishna conscious for that 1 hour. While speaking, while glorifying Krishna, we can't be spaced out, we can't be sleeping, right? So we are attentively glorifying Krishna. It's an opportunity for us to become Krishna conscious for 1 hour or 2 hours, whatever may be the duration of the class. So we need to see that as an opportunity to become Krishna conscious. The many other points are there. One more point is gratitude to the hearers. All the speakers of Srimad Bhagavatam are very grateful to those who are hearing. Maitreya Muni was grateful to Vidura. Sukadeva Goswami was grateful to Parikshit. Narada Muni was grateful to our Yudhishthir Maharaj in 7th canto. He's praising Yudhishthir Maharaj so much. Right? And Sota Goswami was always praising the wonderful questions asked by the sages of Naimisharanya. All the exemplary teachers of Bhagavatam in Bhagavatam are having deep appreciation for the hearers of Bhagavatam. Because you are having eagerness to hear Bhagavatam, I got an opportunity to glorify Krishna. This is how Maitreya Muni says. So a good teacher is grateful to the student of Shastra. So we will just, one little point. See, Mother Yashoda constantly hears the complaints of the gopis of Vrindavan. All the gopis of Vrindavan directly witness Krishna's naughty activities, stealing activities, and they would complain to Mother Yashoda, your son is so naughty, like this, like that. Then the gopis are actually making butter so that Krishna could come to their homes and steal butter. Okay? They are actually relishing Krishna's pastimes. They are sharing Krishna's pastimes with other devotees, other gopis. The gossip in Vrindavan is Harikatha. Okay, the subject matter of a casual conversation in Vrindavan is glorification of Krishna. Okay, so this is how the gopis are conversing amongst themselves. One day they thought that we are seeing Krishna's butter stealing pastimes, but Mother Yashoda is not seeing them. Why would Krishna steal in his own home? So Mother Yashoda is missing all the stealing pastimes of Krishna. Krishna steals in Yashoda's house also. These innocent gopis don't know. So, but they are thinking that Mother Yashoda does not have that experience. Let us go and give this information to Mother Yashoda. So in that mood they went, but they are speaking in the mood of complaining against Krishna, not just glorifying Krishna Katha. They are not saying Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. They are chastising Krishna. They are criticizing Krishna. They are very angry with Krishna apparently. They seem irritated with Krishna, but actually they are appreciative. So when the gopis who saw Krishna's pastimes firsthand narrated those pastimes to Mother Yashoda, her experience of Krishna's pastimes is much greater. Her relish of Krishna's pastimes is greater than the gopis of Vrindavan, who saw them firsthand. Why? The pastimes of Krishna, which are already very sweet, they are mixed with the love of the gopis. So, when a devotee who loves Krishna speaks the pastimes of Krishna, the pastimes become more relishable because the pastimes are mixed with the love. That's why Sukhamukhad Amrutadrava Samyutam. Krishna's pastimes are already sweet, but when a devotee who loves Krishna narrates them, they become much sweeter. Okay? So this is the language of heart. So with this, I'll just conclude in 5 minutes. It's 12:08, my God. I was told 12:10. So I will give just a couple of formulas for teaching Shastra. The method of teaching Shastra. So first important key in teaching Shastra is understand the mood and the need of the audience and make the teaching more effective and enlivening. if we understand the mood and the need of the audience. Secondly, we may not be able to understand the mood and need of every kind of audience. We need to choose our audience also, right? So there are different types of audiences. We may not be able to connect with every type of audience. Shastra can be presented to practicing devotees and new people, corporates or college people, school people, children's. You can present Shastra in different forums, but we can choose that forum where we can effectively present, which is compatible with our own ability to present. So understand the mood of the audience and present accordingly. That's compassion. Okay, next. I'll just present this formula, CPU formula. Okay, so teaching requires the CPU formula. In 3 minutes, we'll conclude. C for content, P for presentation, and U for understanding. Okay, so to teach effectively, we need to have the right content, good presentation, and more than these two, the right understanding of the content. So let's begin with C. C is content. So I have a please formula for content. What should be the content of a Shastric presentation? P, practical and personal application. Teacher should also be able to highlight the application value of the content. Not that we squeeze out some speculative lessons for application. Some things are just meant for relishing. You may not be able to apply everything. But wherever there is a possibility, try to point out the application value. Prabhupada does it in his purports a lot. P, that is P. Then L for lessons. There are beautiful lessons. Samudra Manthan you are describing, and there are so many lessons in Samudra Manthan. Okay, you can identify them nicely. Prabhupada has already identified. We need to identify again. E for example. For example, you are speaking Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahushakha yanantascha buddhayo avyavasayena. Now this shloka is speaking about determination, resolute determination. Now you speak the concept, also give an example. Who is a good example of determination? Srila Prabhupada, Hanumanji, Bhagirath, Dhruva Maharaj. So if you give an example, the concept becomes very clear, right? Next is analogy. So analogies are everywhere in Bhagavatam shlokas and purports also. Prabhupada explains the disappearance and appearance of Krishna by giving an analogy of comparing it with sunrise and sunset. It becomes very easy. So analogies will make the teaching very effective. S for Shastric connections, stories. So Prabhupada is giving a purport to one Gita shloka. He will immediately refer to one Bhagavatam pastime there. So you are speaking one Shastra, you connect it to another Shastra in a relevant way, right? So when you have Shastric connections and you have nice stories and some shlokas quoted, the message becomes very digestible and authentic, right? Then finally elaboration. So you have this please formula for the content. Then CPU formula we are discussing, and we did C part content. Then we are into P. P for presentation. So for presentation, you can have the right selection of contents. Now all the please may not be needed for every presentation, right? Some presentations need not have any analogies. You don't have to concoct an analogy to present something. It's already clear. No need of analogy or example. Okay. So selecting the right contents, some or all of them, then having a smooth flow in the presentation and some interaction with the audience, either expressive through one's expressions or verbal way, asking some questions or answering the questions. That way we can have an interaction and also respect their time. We have very less time now. And also using some audio visual aids if possible. So these are some points about presentation. Then finally U for understanding. So understanding the how much we understood the content we are presenting will be understood by the audience if we really understand, right? If we don't have understanding, they will understand that we did not understand. Right? So therefore, understanding and presenting is good. Not that, okay, I have so-and-so class tomorrow and I do a folio search. Nowadays, People don't even do folio search, they do Google search. Right? I searched in Google, I searched in folio, I got these references, and then made this presentation. Okay. Sometimes we may not be able to understand the context. You have a presentation on the science of soul. You will get some references from 2nd chapter of Gita when you do folio search. You may also get some references from the 1st chapter of 7th canto, where Hiranyakashipu is speaking the science of soul. Right? Not knowing that it is Hiranyakashipu speaking, we may quote it. Right? It may have a different effect also. Right? So, not knowing the context, not have sufficiently understanding the point, if we just search and then put it there, then it may not be very effective. Okay? So, understanding the subject, second, understanding the need of the audience. So, accordingly, if we present, that will make the presentation very effective. So, with this, I'll conclude. The next speaker is also here. So, I must, 12 minutes done too. I just spoke on completing on time. So, Gauranga Prabhu is here. Gauranga Prabhu is a very inspirational personality for me in my personal Shastric study. He engaged me in Bhaktivedanta Vidyapit. Because of him, I learned Shastra, and I'm engaged in studying Shastra and serving others who are wanting to study Shastra. I acknowledge him. This I will conclude.